My name is Adriana Alba. I'm board president for Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble. And if you would like to hear more about a unique theater event called Gathering the Fire, please listen to this conversation. Fell in love with theater, I think was I was in eighth grade drama. So I think that was the beginning of my interest in theater, but just storytelling has always been a part of my life, my long lineage. I feel of storytellers, and but I really fell in love with the community that theater creates when I met Sarah Guerrero, the artistic director for Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble. And I think when I met Sarah, it was the first time that I really saw the power of having building community of creative people, whether they had been trained in theater or not, but what the theater could, the human potential that it could tap into. And to me, I think that's the most powerful part of theater is it's not just the kind of the regalia of you're an actor and there's a stage and a curtain and people clap, but what happens before the play, with the process, both the beautiful parts, but also the pain and struggle that people get through together. I think that that's such a wonderful way to look at how we can build community even outside of the theater. And, especially around building stories, acknowledging uh, people's stories, people's lives, people's imagination, and just the creativity of many different voices all together, not just the playwright, not just the actor, but the whole team that has to come together for a play to happen. I fell in love with writing since I started learning how to write. I've always felt that writing was such a magical power to have in my pocket, because it was how I could keep track of my thoughts. It was how I could keep track of my imagination. And I'm an English teacher by trade. But before being an English teacher, I have a master's degree in English. And before that, I have an undergraduate degree in political science. And the power of words to organize or deconstruct and break apart the world around us is something that I find to be extraordinary. And as a teacher, the power that I see it build, especially in young people. So I'm an English teacher at a high school, at Los Amigos High School, in Fountain Valley. Most of my students are from Santa Ana. And the power that I see them begin to build as they find their voices, as they begin to organize their thinking, but extending themselves outside of themselves. And so I think that's such a beautiful thing. And, following up on that, putting it up on the stage for to be exposed for the world to see or connect to, it's such a vulnerable but beautiful thing to hand over to somebody. Why is the theater experience so special, so unique? I think that that you have to confront the human being, like face to face. So as an audience member, you have to confront the story as something that is flesh and blood in front of you. And being an audience member, it's kind of an old thing. I feel like I'm such an English teacher, but that fear and awe that you're supposed to feel when you go to play, it's such a real experience that I think especially nowadays where we are so dependent on even our relationships are sometimes so mediated by screens, right? I think the theater gives us an opportunity to really uh, confront ourselves, confront our emotions, and to feel accountability for ourselves as, both as creators, because you could look at the people that, consuming your work, you could look them in the eye. As opposed to, when you write a story and you keep it on the page, or you have a poem, The play is a moment where you get to, yeah, see the people that you imagined the whole time while you were writing, but they're real. They're, and you have to look them in the eye and be accountable to them. And the same goes for the audience. I think it's such a different relationship to words and to stories when you have to, again, see look at the creators, the actors, the playwrights, look them in the eye and have an experience in a collective. I mean, it's a literary experience, but a spectacle or whatever we want to call it, but that you're in a room full of people and you are all seeing this together and going through those emotions in that way. It's really special. I mean, I think the music does that too, to a certain degree, but I feel that the theater experience is so much more premeditated, and controlled, but it's still there's still such an unknown of what the relationship's going to be by the end. So that's what makes it so magical. Well, I've been in activist circles and creative circles in the Santa Ana area. My gosh, since for a long time. I mean, over 20 years. And so Sarah was always a person that was always, we were always connected somehow. I was a part of the board for El Centro Cultural de Mexico at one point, and so Sarah came to one of our meetings, and she had this beautiful proposal for us to help fund it, because at that time Breath of Fire was not um, uh, it did not have its nonprofit status at the time. So I first became acquainted to Breath of Fire through, you know, basically hearing her proposal to put together a play called The Mexican OC. And the Mexican OC was a compilation of untold stories of Orange County, through Mexican American experiences and figures in our history, in our local history. And it was such a beautiful project. And she, again, that was when I saw this, the power of what theater could do. I mean, to be honest with you, when I'm growing up, I didn't grow up with theater proper. I'm from Santa Ana, and it wasn't a part of, I think I remember going to plays like once at Fullerton College, but it was like a school field trip. And so I always thought that, from that experience, I always had this feeling that the theater, even though there had been many opportunities, I had my family, like I said, in town, they had their own way of theater making, I guess you could call it. But when I saw Sarah and when I saw what the Mexican OC did and how it put together, people, stories, community, and also it's such an activist stance to represent people who had never really had a voice in theater locally. And again, I used to really have this feeling that theater was something that fancy people did. That you'd go to, South Coast Repertory or the Laguna Beach Playhouse, and you saw people that dressed nice and had money. And again, but I think, again, I had heard of Teatro Campesino and the likes, but really seeing Sarah and the actors that she put together and the writers and the production eventually come together, it was really a powerful thing. And it's a different kind of activism. I have a background in political science, and I felt that, art is such a beautiful way to make change, without the, you know, politicking. I don't know, and it's so genuine, it's not hiding anything. And it really made me want to be a part of something that could continue that and creating access to storytelling, to documenting stories. I think everybody has a right to be an artist. I think that it's a human right. I think we all have that. I don't think it's anything special. And making things, we all innately as human beings have that. And so giving ourselves permission to do that. And I guess being a part of Breath of Fire was an opportunity for me to give myself permission to do as well. Well, I think Breath of Fire is so unique because it brings together voices and creators that are maybe not trained formally, um, but opens up the space and provides tools and provides conversations that are really kind of the heart of a true creative community. So, although we have writers, I mean, at all levels, and we do have people who are, very highly trained and did MFAs and the likes. What's really powerful is when you begin to see the relationships across the, um, that are people who are, have day jobs, but they've been carrying around these stories in their hearts and have not had an opportunity to sit down and feel confident to not only write them down but to read them out loud and to be supported in a real feedback that is I think the feedback that we get in the writing communities is really about building up the people that we are working with. And so I think Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble, it's the only Latina theater ensemble in Orange County, which that in and of itself is unique. But again, collapsing those relationships that are supposed to be in a writing space, and making it a place where, again, we believe that art is a human right, that being able to write down your story, to affirm who you are through your storytelling, and to explore other people's stories through storytelling, that it should not belong to any one person or any one group, and everyone should have the right to access that. Gathering the Fire is our very first convening of Ensemble since before the pandemic in person. So it's literally a gathering up of the fire. What really made Breath of Fire unique in the organization was the collective of writers that came about and who served as ensemble. And so we've been operating as, just like for the most part, just like everybody else, through Zoom and coordinating something in person has been very challenging still, even after the pandemic. And so on March 4th at Gathering the Fire, it'll be our first open reading. It will take place at the theater at Grand Central Art Center, 6:30 until, I don't know, I'm gonna say 8 o'clock about. But again, it's our space that night. So if it goes a little bit over or less, it's very much uh, the programming is meant to bring us back together and to share pieces that are still crisp and new, and maybe we haven't shared with anybody just yet, because we've been away and because we haven't had a chance to be in front of an audience. And so it's March 4th is actually a very busy night downtown Santa Ana. There's the art walk, and I know that there's also Boca de Oro, but for us, it's as a part of the downtown Santa Ana artist community, it's the first time that we open up our doors to the public. So it's exciting. It's a little bit scary, but it's also our attempt to relaunch as an organization that again brings community together. And even though we survived during the pandemic and the closure through our stage stories that were over Zoom, and those were very successful, and our classes were always full, and registration was great. But Gathering the Fire, we miss each other, and it's going to be beautiful to just be around our friends and to hear what we've all been up to. We have in the lineup, we have obviously our artistic director, Sarah Guerrero, our literary director, Diana Burbano, but also old friends that we really miss, such as Natalia Valle. She just completed an MFA, and she's got so much, gosh, she's such a talented voice, and we're Elizabeth Sekaresh, which I miss so much, um, Angela Podaca, Yolanda Mendiveles, who has been working on several pieces, both about you know uh, 1960s Mexican American civil rights movement. Margot Rofe, who is a part of our board, but has been with us for the past year. This would be maybe her first time that you may hopefully we get to hear a new piece of hers over in person. Um, my goodness, I'll be reading. I forgot about myself, but I'll be reading a couple of pieces. Um, and Tiffany McQuay, I believe, is going to be reading for us too. So I'm just, and again, it's also an open reading, so we're hoping that old friends who do stop by that will hopefully share as well. Also, Elvia Susana Rubalcaba, who's going to be one of our teaching artists. She's one of the artists who's about to launch our Rio de Mi Vida poetry series. And it'll be a good opportunity for all of us to just see each other again and hear what we're up to. What I'm looking forward to in gathering the fire is just to have an audience. I think having an audience is going to be, again, it's a lot of the pieces I've never read out loud, so, or to anybody. So I feel a little bit, I feel a little bit scared because, again, there's some, even though it's awkward to do this Zoom thing, it's also very, I don't know, I'm used to it now. Again, it's looking people in the eye when you're reading and hearing your voice say something in a room full of people. I think that that's a very, we're not, again, I'm not in the practice anymore. So I can't wait. I would like the audience to remember what it's like. And I would like the audience to feel what we've been missing, which I don't think most of us, um, once again, because I'm expecting that most of the audience will be old friends. It's like what they say, like you really don't know what you've been missing till you've lost it. But I think being back together will be a reminder of what brought us together in the first place, and it's being validated, being supported, being celebrated. And that's part of why we write. I think part of why we write is because we're reaching out to connect to others. And so I'm hoping that the moment um, kind of is, we created this theme of gathering the fire as a way to frame our season, to frame our year. And so at this point, I feel like it'll be a launch for where we want to go. Viewers must attend Gathering the Fire if you want to, once again, see community-based creativity at its best, at its finest, and really building up new voices and supporting new voices that are emerging in local theater, and nurturing space for voices that are underrepresented and sometimes unheard by most. So this would be the place if you want to see what's coming to the future of Orange County writing and playwriting as well. So more voices from the community must be heard, because what's the point of theater? The theater's gonna shrivel away. If we continue to build theater in its traditional form, where will their audiences be? Who will their audiences be? Who's going to be their patron? Who's going to be the patron of the future? So it's, inevitably, it's going to be, killing away its audiences, especially as the world is, especially in California of all places, becoming more and more diverse. So we need to reframe and refocus on who the audience of the future is going to be. And it's all around us, it's people that are hungry for that experience. And I think the audience will be there once we see the representation beyond what's been delivered. Reclaiming Our Fire is a class that we are offering in March. It's going to be facilitated by Elvia Susana Rubalcaba, who is one of our regular teaching artists, but she was also former board member in Breath of Fire. Um, I mean, I love her. She's an old friend of mine, but she does a wonderful job at tapping into not only memories, but tapping into our plans for the future. But I think here in our workshops for Reclaiming the Fire, which are going to start, Elvia's workshops are going to begin in March. And again, one of the reasons why we wanted to have this gathering was to let people know all the amazing events that are coming up. But Elvia's workshop is going to take place Wednesday evenings from 7 to 9 on March 8th, March 15th, and the 29th. And so this is a free virtual creative writing course. And in this series that she's really going to tap into kind of what fuels us currently. Again, it's reclaiming our fire, what's fueled us in the past, but building up our voices, and again, the community between all the writers that have been a part of our workshops and new ones as well. Well, I think the reason to partake and to support and to attend events by Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble is because once again, we are the only Latina theater ensemble available in Orange County, and we are small and we are mighty, but we need the support. We have amazing writers but more importantly, I think we have amazing teaching artists that build up creative spaces and creative processes that are accessible to anyone, whether you are a novice, you're just getting started and you're, just getting, a handle of, your creative voice, or if you're a seasoned writer, you're going to have not only, supportive group of, colleagues and friends, but also I think very much an interested ear that's going to build up your work. So once again, I think Breath of Fire Latina Theater is so unique because there's no one else like us, literally in all of Orange County. There are organizations like us in the LA area and in San Diego, but Orange County, of all places, I think needs us as we're becoming, a more metropolitan area. I think I'm excited to grow. I'm excited to create more community, and I'm excited for people to see what we create. And a lot of it is launching new voices. And I think we will be this year, particular, in real life, is really building up not productions, but building up processes for those productions to happen. So we're an incubator. We're not a stage. We're an incubator. So we're a support group basically for Latina theater, writers, playwrights, and poets. Organizations such as Breath of Fire offer free creative spaces. We do not turn anybody away. So that makes the support all the more important. So a donation to Breath of Fire provides a workshop for somebody. It provides pay for an artist because we don't like our art. Artists are often, asked to work for free or their work is undervalued. And we pride ourselves in making sure that all artists, all teaching artists are compensated, as well as when we put together productions, or put together readings, that we pay our actors as well. So you're supporting not only emerging voices, but you're also supporting just a continuation of access for not only audience, but creators as well. So I think, donating to Breath of Fire is money well spent if you believe in the power of creativity, but theater making in particular. I am Adriana Alba, board president for Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble, and I hope to see you at our Gathering the Fire open reading this Saturday, March 4th at Grand Central Arts Center Theater at 6:30. The event is free, but we hope that you'll participate as an audience member, and we would really appreciate all the support and donations. That if you'd like more information, you could go to our website, breathoffire.org.